The Senators are in the playoffs. The Toronto Maple Leafs are not. So I'm good with that. I want to start by sincerely thanking Prime Minister Carney and Minister Gregor Robertson for their partnership and for prioritizing a mixed income approach to housing that includes such a strong emphasis on building new, affordable and supportive homes right here in Ottawa. At the City of Ottawa, we share those priorities. And just like other levels of government, we've been doing the hard work at City Hall with the goal of making Ottawa the most housing-friendly city in Canada. We're saying yes to housing. And this agreement with the federal government is a huge step forward toward that objective. As you'll recall, just a few months ago, the Prime Minister and I signed a framework agreement between the City of Ottawa and the federal government. This agreement is now realized after a few short months of hard work between the City and Build Canada Homes, and it's the first agreement of its kind in Canada. So thank you, Prime Minister Carney, for choosing Ottawa for this landmark agreement. I hope this is the first of many. And thank you for your leadership on tackling the housing crisis head-on, moving with urgency to build more homes, to build them quickly, and to build them more affordably. We feel that same urgency at City Hall in Ottawa, which is why, before we even approached BCH and the federal government with a proposition, we made sure that our own house was in order. Ottawa has been saying yes to housing, yes to working with other levels of government, with home builders, with non-market housing providers like Ottawa Community Housing. And I'm delighted that we're joined by the team from Ottawa Community Housing, including the incredible CEO, Stéphane Giguère, and our chair, Teresa Kavanagh, and my colleague from Ottawa City Council, David Hill, who's here as well. Great to be joined by the members of the local Liberal caucus as well. We are saying yes to creating the conditions to get shovels in the ground and roofs over people's heads. Over the past year, we've taken a number of steps to achieve that goal. We launched our Housing Innovation Task Force. We're implementing more than 50 different recommendations to streamline the process at City Hall, cut or defer fees, and shorten approval times. We eliminated or reduced the scope of dozens of different studies. We passed a new zoning bylaw. And yesterday, City Council unanimously approved the agreement with Build Canada Homes. In Ottawa, we're tackling this crisis from all angles. Notre objectif est de devenir la ville la plus favorable au logement au Canada. And now with this agreement approved, we can start planning to build 3,000 new homes in Ottawa. These will be truly mixed income communities with the emphasis on providing affordable and supportive housing. Well over half of these units will be lower or significantly lower than what the market can typically provide. Il s'agit d'une entente historique entre notre ville et le gouvernement fédéral. This is a historic deal between our city and the federal government. We've been working behind the scenes to do the hard work to get it done, and most importantly, to get it done quickly. This deal will create thousands of new homes, including deeply affordable homes built on public land in our city. And I think this is what the public expects of us, of their elected representatives, especially in response to something as significant as the housing crisis, to work collaboratively in their best interests, to eliminate obstacles and to find solutions, to move with speed and clarity, quite simply to get things done. And that is what today is really about. So I want to once again thank the Prime Minister and Minister Robertson for their support. I look forward to continuing our strong partnership to solve problems, to make a difference, and to restore the promise of housing that is abundant, affordable, and attainable. Thank you. Merci. And I'll now invite Minister Robertson to say a few words. Thanks, Mark.
Merci, Monsieur le Maire. Good morning, everyone. Bon matin. It's great to be here in Ottawa with the Prime Minister, with Mayor Sutcliffe and members of his council, as well as some of our Ottawa caucus colleagues, David, Yasser, Anita, and Caroline, who is the Parliamentary Secretary for Housing and Infrastructure. Merci aussi à toutes les organisations communautaires et nos partenaires qui sont ici aujourd'hui. Housing affordability remains one of Canada's hardest hitting challenges as Canadians continue to feel the stress that rent and mortgage payments put on their monthly budget. As a former mayor, I recognize the challenges that face our cities and towns when it comes to building the supply of affordable housing that meets the needs of our residents. It is a challenge I faced in my own time at City Hall, and as Minister of Housing and Infrastructure, I am dedicated to investing in and supporting our cities as we tackle the affordable housing challenge together. Maison Canada a été créée avec un objectif clair: bâtir plus de logements, plus rapidement, et là où les besoins sont les plus grands. Under the Prime Minister's leadership, we have taken quick action. With Build Canada Homes, we started right away to fast-track affordable housing construction and drive a more productive and efficient home building industry across the country. Today's announcement is about families here in Ottawa finding a home that they can afford, about projects that will give workers opportunity to develop their skills, and about growing and strengthening the city for generations to come. To tell us more about this important work, it's my pleasure to introduce Prime Minister Mark Carney. Merci.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Gregor, Minister. I would like to thank my caucus colleagues who are joining me today, as well as David, Councillor for Nepean, Tyler Watt, the MPP for the region. Margaret, thank you for being here, and the work, and Stefan, the work for the community homes, and Mayor Sutcliffe. Thank you. Thank you for your leadership, your partnership. And this today is truly about partnership, working for the people of Ottawa and the people of Canada, an example of what gets done when there's focus and partnership. The Mayor and I would say, have been partners from the very beginning. Literally, my first day as Prime Minister, the first thing I did after I got up was to go have breakfast at John's Diner in Wellington West with the Mayor to talk about shared priorities. Yours as Mayor, mine as Prime Minister, and the first thing on both of our list was affordable housing, getting affordable housing moving, how we can build housing faster, more efficiently, more sustainably, and of course at lower cost purchase, but also lower run cost for people in housing here in Ottawa and across Canada. Because when we build a stronger Ottawa, we build a stronger Canada, and our objective is a stronger Canada for all. And that foundation is the home. The home is the foundation of a good life, and yet for too many Canadians, housing has remained out of reach for too long. Now, there has been some progress over the course of the past year. I think it's important to recognize, to track where we are and whether we're making progress. By the end of last year, the start of this year, housing affordability in Canada had begun to improve from very unaffordable levels, but had begun to improve, and in fact had improved over the course of the last 24 months, the longest streak recorded. The percentage of income that Canadians are spending on mortgage payments is now at their lowest level in 4 years. Asking rents are down to a 35-month low. The rent-to-income ratio, its lowest level in over 6 years. So some encouraging signs, but starting from very high levels, or put it a different way, levels of inaffordability. So there's still much work to do. The reality is that for decades, Canada has just not built enough affordable housing. And now Canadians are paying the price, particularly young Canadians. And what has been built over decades often has the overall costs have been driven up by development charges, taxes, high construction costs. And the average Canadian household is still spending more than half of their income on mortgage payments. So those mortgage payments starting to come down, but it's still, as I said a moment ago, high levels. Il faut que tout le monde nous aide à régler ces défis. C'est pourquoi, au mois de septembre, notre gouvernement a lancé Maison Canada, une nouvelle entité fédérale qui va propulser la construction résidentielle partout au Canada. Elle va s'y prendre de 3 façons. Tout d'abord, en s'associant au secteur privé pour planifier, gérer et bâtir de nouveaux logements abordables et accélérer la réalisation de projets de logement à grande échelle partout au Canada. Deuxièmement, en offrant un financement prévisible à faible coût pour aider les fournisseurs de logements au marché et autochtones à multiplier le nombre de logements abordables et communautaires au Canada. Et troisièmement, en stimulant la création d'une toute nouvelle industrie canadienne de l'habitation qui met à profit des méthodes de construction modernes, comme la construction de maisons préfabriquées. So since its launch in September of last year, just September of last year, Build Canada Homes has already committed to more than 10,000 new units through 13 partnerships across Canada, with over 1,400 homes already under construction or breaking ground in the next 2 months. That means new affordable homes in Ottawa, Toronto, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Gatineau, and Halifax. And to build on this momentum and to further lower the costs of building affordable homes, Canada's new government tabled legislation to unlock $1.7 billion in federal funding for the provinces and territories. Through the Build Communities Strong Fund, we're investing billions to build housing-enabling infrastructure and reduce municipal development charges, charges that the buyers of new homes ultimately pay. Last month, we put that funding to work through a new agreement with Ontario. And this agreement will enable municipalities to cut development charges in half for 3 years, reducing the upfront costs of home building and giving builders the certainty that they need to build. So here in Ottawa, this measure alone, one measure alone, could bring down the cost of building a two-bedroom apartment by more than $15,000 and a new average single-family home by more than $28,000. And to further bring down costs for the Canadians who are buying those homes or who are renting those homes. We've eliminated GST on homes for up to $1 million for first-time home buyers, saving Canadians up to $50,000 on the purchase of their first home. That tax cut, now passed, officially came into place last month. And we're working with the provinces and territories to further multiply those savings. With the help of new federal funding, the Government of Ontario is matching the government's GST cut with a provincial HST relief on all new homes, valued at up to $1 million. So what does that mean here in Ottawa? It means saving buyers in Ottawa as much as $130,000 on the purchase of their new home. If you combine that with the development charge reduction, that could mean as much as $158,000 in savings. Real money back in the pockets of Canadians. It's a clear example of what governments can do when they focus and when they work together. En décembre, comme Monsieur le maire vient de le dire, le maire Sutcliffe et moi, nous avons annoncé un nouveau partenariat ambitieux entre Maison Canada et la ville d'Ottawa. Ce partenariat vise à construire plus rapidement jusqu'à 3 000 logements abordables pour des ménages à revenus mixtes grâce à un investissement conjoint de 400 milliards de dollars. Dans le cadre de cette entente, la Ville d'Ottawa va réduire ou annuler les droits d'aménagement, les frais de délivrance de permis et les taxes foncières pour des projets prioritaires totalisant 2 000 nouveaux logements. Et par Maison Canada, notre gouvernement va verser de financement pour aider à faire avancer la construction de 1 000 logements de plus dans le portefeuille de la ville. So December, the mayor and I made a commitment to build more homes faster for the people of Ottawa. Today, we're proud to announce that Build Canada Homes has approved 8 new housing projects that will build more than 1,100 new rental homes in the city of Ottawa, already exceeding our original target by 10%. We're fast-tracking these projects to get shovels in the ground in the next few months, shovel in the ground over there, and I want to thank Ottawa City Council for their unanimous vote of confidence in this work last evening. Construction right here on Geyser Place will begin later this year. And this project I covered them both, but it's geyser. You say geyser, I say geyser. Tomato. This project will build more than, well, it says 100 new rental units. Actually, I think, Stéphane, it's closer to 180.
118.
118, 118 nouveaux appartements, en effet, de logements pour des Canadiens de classe moyenne, for middle-class Canadians. Now, beyond here in Nepean, we're building in Centertown, in Sandy Hill, in Overbrook, and Lincoln Heights. Homes across this city built by Canadians for Canadians. L'important, ce n'est pas seulement ce que nous bâtissons, c'est aussi comment nous le faisons. Nous bâtissons de manière inclusive, en partenariat avec les Premières Nations, les Inuits et les Métis. Nous bâtissons en solidarité avec les travailleurs en créant de bons jobs syndiqués. Nous bâtissons de manière durable parce que la réduction des émissions n'est pas seulement un devoir moral, c'est aussi un impératif économique. And for example, this project will benefit from c'est quoi? Geothermal, yeah, heating and cooling. It's dramatically lowering the costs for the residents. Et avant tout, conformément à notre politique achetée canadienne, nous bâtissons canadien, avec de l'acier canadien, de bois d'œuvre canadien et des travailleurs canadiens. C'est ainsi que nous bâtissons un Canada fort. Et grâce à Maison Canada, notre gouvernement construit rapidement et à une grande échelle afin que toute la population canadienne ait un logement sûr et abordable. Cet engagement s'inscrit dans notre plan économique global visant à bâtir une économie plus forte, plus durable et plus résiliente, une économie qui offre davantage de certitude, de sécurité, de prospérité à toutes les Canadiennes et à tous les Canadiens. Now, it's early days, but our plan's working. Despite all the shocks, Canada is expected to have the second fastest growing economy in the G7 this year and next. Wages overall are growing now at twice the rate of overall inflation. But at the same time, we know that the cost of living is still high, and we know that some of the biggest payoffs of our plan will take time. So we're supporting Canadians who are under pressure from everyday expenses with a boost today and a bridge to that better tomorrow. And that's why we temporarily cut the federal fuel excise tax this week, bringing down costs at the pump by up to 10 cents per liter. Combined with our earlier elimination of the consumer carbon tax on day one of our government, we've lowered the price of gas by up to 28 cents per liter. We've cut income taxes for 22 million Canadians, saving families up to $840 each year. We've launched the Groceries and Essentials benefit, which will deliver direct payments to more than 12 million Canadians, up to $1,890 per family. That's money deposited directly into bank accounts, starting with the first checks on the 5th of June. That's how we're building a Canada that's not just strong, but good. A Canada that's not just prosperous, but fair. Canada that's not just for some, most of the time, but for all of the time. A Canada where everyone can get ahead. Nous bâtissons un Nepean fort, une Ottawa forte, et un Canada fort pour tous. Merci, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you very much.
Merci, Monsieur le Premier ministre. Thank you, Prime Minister. We'll now begin with a question. Première question, Marco.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Prime Minister.
Thank you.
Marco Vigliotti, iPolitics. I want to ask about the status of the trade talks because I'm admittedly a bit confused. The Americans, when I talk to them, they don't really kind of understand where this talk of an entry fee is coming from, saying we've been very, very clear with the Canadians what our trade irritants are. Yep. You had Howard Lutnick, you had Jameson Greer yesterday doubling down that dairy and alcohol in particular were huge barriers to restarting trade talks. And Jameson Greer even threatened retaliatory actions if you don't convince your provincial colleagues to remove some of those bans on U.S. liquor. So I got to ask, considering yesterday you said, I'm not backing down, we're not going to make any concessions to get Americans to come to the table. What's the game plan here? Or what are you prepared to do to get Americans at the table here? Or are you comfortable with this kind of awkward status quo that we have right now?
Look, I don't think that was an exact quote of what I said yesterday, so I'm going to I'm not going to associate myself with the way you framed it. There are a series of trade issues between the countries. Most of the issues have been raised by the United States, either in terms of things they want to see changed in Canada. There are a series of tariff measures the United States has put in place which are in violation of the existing agreement. The tariffs on steel, the tariffs on aluminum, the tariffs on automobiles, the tariffs on forest products. Those are not consistent with the existing agreement. We look forward to sitting down. We have an exchange around these issues, both in terms of understanding what I'll use their term, they often use, trade irritants, a series of measures, which would include actions that have been taken in response to the American measures, such as the provincial actions. These are provincial actions with respect to alcohol on the shelves. I mean, you've got to remember, the client here are the provincial liquor authorities. They make the decisions what they put on their shelves. And they make those decisions based on a series of considerations, and they've taken that into account. So our work is as follows. With respect specifically to the negotiations, is to be prepared on all of the issues to provide our perspective and address, to negotiate in the round on all of these issues. This is a review process that's baked into the existing framework of the agreement, and as well to see where there are opportunities where we can be stronger together, and there are a number of those. We have those discussions as a whole. You prefaced your question where you don't know where this talk of a quote entry fee, I don't know where the talk of a quote entry fee is from. Certainly not coming from me. It's not language I've ever used, and it's not language I've ever heard from the President of the United States. So, look, we're ready. We have an exchange. It's more than ready. There's exchange on both understanding the issues and on opportunities for cooperation. It's a negotiation. These things have their own rhythm, and they also have what's happening above the surface and what's happening below the surface, and we'll see in the fullness of time.
Follow-up?
Yeah, on that same vein, I guess my confusion stems from the fact that the Americans are saying, not really a negotiation. We're laying out what we need to see Canada do, and Canada's not meeting us there.
That's a negotiation. That's a position. See, Yana, there's two parties in a negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
One, we're not sitting here taking notes, okay, and taking instruction from the United States. Understanding their position, understand where it's in Canada's interest, in our joint interests to be stronger together. And this is a government that can do many things at one time. We set up, to go back to today, we set up Build Canada Homes. It literally was set up in September. The legislation to give it all of its authorities is still working its way through the House. We're glad that we have a majority now. We can move that forward more rapidly. We're already in a position where 10,000 plus homes catalyzed by Build Canada Homes are either under construction. These agreements are in place. We've got 1,400 homes are either under construction or will be in the next 2 months. We're doing that plus large projects. We're doing it plus providing a boost and a bridge to Canadians. We're doing that while continuing, despite unprecedented trade measures being taken by the United States. We're the second fastest growing economy in the G7 with the best fiscal position, with 20 new deals signed with other countries around the world. So we're going to do multiple things at the same time. We have enough room. We're ready to go into detailed negotiations. We're also ready to wait if that's what has to happen.
But in
Next
terms of that
question.
urgency,
Question, question.
Steph?
We're running out of time
Yeah.
otherwise. Next
Yeah.
question. Prochaine question.
Prime Minister Stephanie
morning.
Levitz from the Globe and Mail. I will quote you directly from yesterday, if that's
Great.
okay with you.
That's good.
So you were talking about, it was the question of trade irritants. You said, we understand what what the Americans would call trade irritants or trade issues are. We have some on our side as well. Can you be a bit more clear about what those are, and are those things that you would like to see solved prior to negotiation? Are they part of the negotiation?
No, Ms. Levitz, I think this distinction between prior and to any adjustment on the trade side is part of the negotiation. That's my view. So whether you have a global agreement or you take a few things off the table as part of moving towards that global agreement, that's part of the negotiation. So I think to some degree, I understand why you're asking the question, the previous question, but it's an unhelpful distinction because it's part of an overall negotiation. That's the simple thing. What are trade there's a 50% tariff on aluminum, 50% tariff on steel. The derivative measures that have been put in place on both of those, the auto tariffs, which are inconsistent with the side letters, the tariffs on forest products. So there's a series of issues there that are right there in front of us all. I mean, they're fundamental. We understand the Americans have changed their overall trade policy, their orientation, but we need to work together, and we will work together in the context of what's in the best interests of both countries.
Follow-up? Just as the follow-up, with regards to the steel tariffs in particular, and I want to link this to the video you posted on the weekend about forward guidance and not sugarcoating it for Canadians. There are people in the steel industry now, for example, who are looking at the way they've changed the application of the steel tariff and are warning that thousands of jobs are going to be lost imminently, like not down the road, like within weeks. And so I wonder if you could speak to those Canadians, and what is your assessment of how bad it is about to get out there?
I would make if I may, distinction between the industry, the core industry in steel, where a series of measures have been taken, raising our tariffs and so-called tariff rate quotas to third country steel into Canada, introducing a Buy Canadian policy, providing strategic hundreds of millions of dollars of support into the industry and into workers, which is helping to shift some of our largest steel manufacturers into profitability and into new markets. I want to distinguish between that, where there's more to be done, and look, it would be better for the United States. We are resolute about this, better for the United States and better for Canada to have a unified steel market that we had before. It would make the U.S. more competitive versus China. It would provide more markets for American steel. That would do a number of things as well. Ultimately, that's part of the negotiation. Where the pressure is increasing, and what we're looking at right now, is the change in American, this term derivatives, where it's downstream users of steel, and then a tariff, a steel-like tariff, or effectively a steel tariff being applied to the whole product, and the jump in the tariff because of that. And that is a new development that the Americans are applying globally. Remember that all the things in steel, aluminum particularly, America's applying to everybody. We happen to have a trade agreement, or existing trade agreement, which is what they're doing is inconsistent with that. I recognize my answers are long, but I'll make sure we get some more questions. So I better stop there.
Next question, question. Jordan.
Hi, Jordan Gowling, National Post. The MOU deadline is 3 weeks past for deals on industrial carbon pricing, Pathways Project. Is the source of the delay disagreement on industrial carbon pricing? No,
Source of delay is good hard work between. The reality is there's good work, regular conversations between the governments, the federal government and the government of Alberta. We're making progress on a number of things. These are fundamental structural changes we're making together, and I would say we're making good progress. It's not quite there yet, but you'll be amongst the first to know when it is.
Follow up. Premier Smith has said the level should be at a level that the industry can afford. The oil and gas sector has been clear that they need to remain competitive given the global context. So are you willing to compromise?
Global context for oil and gas is actually quite attractive, I might add. If you can produce oil and ship it, it's quite attractive, yes.
But are you willing to compromise on $130
we're willing to get,
a ton, or do you
we're going to get to the $130 effective price is part of the MOU, and we're working in terms of the way to that the market, and in the end, and I'll finish on this because others, it's how the market works in Alberta to a broader extent across Canada, because the effective price is a price in the market. And one of the points I would underscore, which is not well understood, is that the effective carbon price in this country is actually quite low relative to the headline price, in the $20 to $30 in most Canadian markets. And that's something we're working to rectify.
Next question, prochaine question. David?
David Aiken, Global News. Good morning.
Morning.
Ahead of Ambassador Wiseman's testimony later today, I wondered if you might comment on why he's the right guy for the job at this time, why you picked him, and also perhaps respond to concerns from the Bloc Québécois and the Conservatives. And I'll quote from Pierre Paulus, who just posted, "We remain convinced that Ambassador Wiseman will never defend the interests of Quebec or those of Quebec farmers." I wonder if you could address that.
Je vais répondre à la deuxième partie de votre question en français. En français, je vais faire en anglais après. En anglais après, parce que premièrement, le gouvernement du Canada va défendre les intérêts du Québec, la gestion de l'offre, la culture québécoise et la culture francophone. Il y a 44 députés libéraux au sein du gouvernement du Canada. On a une ministre des Finances du Québec, ministre de l'Industrie du Québec. OK, c'est évident, M. Leblanc, il est acadien, mais un Acadien, il comprend bien la culture francophone et moi-même, je vais défendre tous les intérêts du Québec et du Canada. Ça, c'est absolument un point fondamental. Et toutes les décisions dans la négociation vont être prises par le gouvernement du Canada, y compris le Premier ministre, le ministre des Finances, le ministre canado-américain, le ministre de la Défense. Lui-même, il est ici, hein? Un grand homme. Il était là, oui. Alors, on va faire tout cela. Et j'estime M. Wiseman, mais il était ambassadeur. C'est un rôle diplomatique, c'est pas un rôle où des gens prennent des décisions, okay? And now in English, and several things. One is all the decisions. The core point is the decisions are taken by the Government of Canada at the core of the cabinet. We all represent all the interests of Canada, but I'll just underscore the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Industry, the Minister of Canadian-U.S. Relations. The first two are Québécois, of course. The third is an Acadian. The Minister of Defense, fully bilingual. Myself, we defend all the interests of Canada, all the interests of Quebec, the culture of Quebec. We've been very clear on supply management, on our cultural rights, and defending that. And with all respect, and I have tremendous respect for Mr. Wiseman, and he's the right person for the job because he's very good at strategy deals. He's got very good contacts, including within this administration and the broader business and governmental community in the United States, which is part of the job of diplomacy. But he's a diplomat, not a decider, and the decider is the Government of Canada.
I wanted just to switch gears as we've come close to a year since the last election. You spent a lot of that year overseas, doing a lot of travel. I was with you in Abu Dhabi.
Doing a lot of deals, David, doing a lot of deals.
Well, this is exactly what I want to talk about. I stood with you in Abu Dhabi when you talked about pledges of $70 billion Canadian. Wondering where that is. And your critics say, are we getting good value for all your time out of the country? Can you maybe
I think a couple of things. One, we're going to have a spring update, and you'll get an update in terms of how the economy is performing, how non-U.S. exports are performing. I'd just suggest take a look at that, and also look at the fact that from a foreign direct investment per capita basis, we far outstrip anyone else in the G7, and we're just getting started. These decisions take time, but what you're already seeing is Canadian exports to markets other than the United States responding significantly, and incoming capital coming to Canada. We're just getting started. You're going to see more, but the momentum's there. So yes, in my view, we're getting good value. We got a lot more to do. I will say with all of this, the reason I say we're just getting started because we're starting to shift things, but we're no way satisfied. You're going to see a lot of Maison Canada, Building Canada Homes banners. You're not going to see any mission accomplished banners behind us.
Prochaine question. Next question, Christian.
Bonjour, Monsieur le Premier ministre Christian Noël de Radio-Canada. J'aimerais revenir sur l'ambassadeur Wiseman qui vient d'envoyer une invitation pour une grande réception pour célébrer son arrivée à Washington en anglais seulement.
Ouais.
Et c'est pas la première fois qu'il semble démontrer un manque de sensibilité envers ce qui se passe au Québec. Allez-vous le rappeler à l'ordre?
Je suis déçu. J'ai entendu la nouvelle sur Radio-Canada ce matin. avec M. Masbourian, les nouvelles de M. Masbourian. Alors, je suis déçu, c'est pas approprié du tout. C'est pas acceptable de lui ou de son bureau à Washington. Qu'est-ce qui arrive? C'est pas correct, OK? Point final. J'associe à mes commentaires à M. Aitken sur ces atouts de M. Wiseman, mais votre prochaine question?
Follow-up?
I was disappointed I heard the news that Mr. Noel mentioned on this invitation, unilingual invitation from Mr. Wiseman. It's unacceptable. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in him, disappointed in his office. It's not the function. And then I finished associating myself, just referring back to the previous comments about his many strengths that I gave to Mr. Aitken.
Follow-up?
J'ai entendu vos commentaires qui disent que M. Wiseman, c'est un ambassadeur et non pas un décideur.
Ouais.
Donc, quand vient le temps de parler de la gestion de l'offre à nos amis américains, qu'est-ce que vous avez dit à M. Wiseman, puisqu'il a pris des positions dans lesquelles il expliquait qu'il n'était pas nécessairement un grand fan lui-même? Donc, qu'est-ce que vous lui avez dit de dire?
Merci, M. Noël, pour votre question. Ça donne, moi, une chance de souligner que la négociatrice, en ce qui concerne l'ACM, c'est Mme Charette, pas M. Wiseman. C'est un changement. Dans le passé, Mme Hillman était l'ambassadrice, pardon, et moi et la négociatrice. Maintenant, on a divisé les rôles. Alors, M. Wiseman a des relations, mais en ce qui concerne les négociations directes avec l'ambassadeur Greer, par exemple, qui est le chef pour la commerce américaine, U.S. Trade Representative, c'est Mme Janice Charette, et aidé, évidemment, avec M. Leblanc et moi-même.
Next question. Prochaine question, Greg.
Greg Quinn, Market News. Prime Minister, the Premier of New Brunswick is about to erect tolls on the Trans-Canada Highway near the Nova Scotia border. And when she's pushed about this, she says, well, a lot of other provinces are doing it, so why can't I? I mean, it's a very physical manifestation of an interprovincial trade barrier. The IMF says these amount to a tariff. Why should Canadians be asking the U.S. for a full and comprehensive free trade deal when we don't have one with ourselves?
Well, I would flip it around. There's lots of reasons that it's in the interests of Canada and the United States to have free and open trade. That's one reason why we still have 85% of our trade with the United States is tariff-free, despite the many real problems in the other areas. That's a choice. It's been the position of this government to remove interprovincial trade barriers. We have removed all federal barriers by legislation for that impeded interprovincial trade. We have a series of tables, if you will, or negotiations at the provincial level for the provinces to do what they should. We will continue to put pressure, and we will increase that pressure with the provinces. No, I'm not happy to pre-butt your follow-up with the decision of, or the intention, I should say, of New Brunswick, and we'll continue to discuss with them. Prochaine question.
Next question.
Oui.
Prochaine question. Graham.
Hi, Graham Richardson, CTV, Prime Minister. Just back to the bourbon ban. Last time I checked...
Vas-y. Oui. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, last time I checked, Mr. Ford has a fair amount of control over the LCBO, even though I appreciate it's independent. But you told him to cool it on the ad that caused a lot of trouble. What if this alcohol thing...
And how did that work? Did he listen?
Yeah. But what if this alcohol thing...
I was right, by the way.
Well, what if this alcohol thing becomes more than an irritant? It's
Look, you know what's an irritant? 50% tariff on steel, 50% tariff on aluminum, 25% tariff on automobiles, all the tariffs on forest products. Those are more than irritants. Those are violations of our trade deal. Okay? The client of American producers, which ultimately, there's a board for the LCBO, for the SAQ, for the Manitoba. There's not just one. Huh? They make those decisions. And they make those decisions in a judgment. Yes, there's different governance structures. And yes, surprise, surprise, the Premier of Ontario is influential with the LCBO. Okay. But he's the client. He's also the duly elected Premier of Ontario. He's got a majority. And he's taking a view, which by most indications, is supported by the vast majority of the population. What we want to do is make progress as the whole. These issues such as decisions on which alcohol to put on the shelves, we can make progress very quickly on that, with progress with in other areas. And I will just underscore, we understand that and this is the point I've been making since day one, is that this long period of integration, deeper integration between Canada and the United States is over, that nostalgia isn't a strategy, that hope isn't a strategy. We're not going to go back to exactly the way things were. The U.S. has changed. It's their right, they've changed, but we're looking to negotiate something mutually agreeable, and there will be adjustments there when we make progress. When we make progress on that, I'm still confident that we will make progress, but and then those judgments will be made by the provinces, and we'll encourage those judgments. But
Follow up?
don't have anything now.
And quickly, there seem to be two stories. The Americans are quite specific publicly, and you've just been very specific publicly. But I keep hearing from the trade minister and somewhat from you the tone that this is all part of a negotiation, and underscoring that, it seems to suggest that it's normal, that this back and forth, these kind of positions publicly and behind closed doors, it's a normal negotiation. I'm assuming, like most Canadians don't see any of this as normal.
Look, what do you think rupture means? Rupture means that things aren't normal. Nostalgia is not a strategy. Things have changed. Things have changed fundamentally. We get that. We understand that. That's why we get up in the morning. What do we think about when we get up in the morning? We think about affordability for Canadians, how we can make life more affordable, and how we can build this country strong, more independent, more prosperous, fairer for all. That's what we get. And our negotiations with the United States and how we diversify our partnerships elsewhere. We don't get up first thing in the morning. I do not get up first thing in the morning and think about the United States. Okay? I think about Canadians. That's the difference. We have more than enough to do in this country. We're building this place strong. There is a misimpression by some of the degree to which we are reliant on the United States. Okay? Yes, it is our biggest trading partner by far. We are also their second biggest trading partner. There is a symbiosis between the two. There's a reason why 85% of our trade is tariff-free still, and that's maintained. Our destiny is first and foremost going to be determined by what we do here, how we build here. Canadians get that. Canadians get that. I'm not sure everyone south of the border understands that to the extent it is true.
We're at time, but we'll take two quick questions. Two more.
Yeah.
Good morning, Najud Amelise, Bloomberg News. I just want to follow up on carbon pricing and the pushback from the oil and gas sector on how it's making them, as they say, less competitive globally. I'm wondering, on the $130 per ton price, what's the timeline you're looking at of reaching that effective price, and is it 2030?
On the second part of your question, that's obviously it's part of the discussion. Everything is connected within the discussions with Alberta, and the key is to, at its base, from our perspectives, to have an effective functioning carbon market. With respect to the competitiveness of our oil and gas sector, our oil production is at a record high. There's a series of measures that can further expand that. If you map in on a per barrel basis, what's the biggest determinant of, one of the biggest determinants, maybe put it this way, of the profitability, competitiveness of the oil and gas sector is going to be our ability to diversify our markets away from the United States.
Follow up.
Okay, I'm going to take that as you saying that you don't have a timeline or
No,
date.
I wouldn't say that, but I didn't say that.
So you're not committing to one.
No, sorry, you're Bloomberg. You can't just read into my answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the same question I've just asked.
It's part of our discussion.
So you're okay. So you're hosting an investment conference in the fall, and you have an economic update next week. I'm wondering if you are looking at cutting corporate taxes, given that's one of the barriers that corporations say stands in the way of investment.
Well, this is a good opportunity to point out that Canada has the lowest marginal effective tax rate on investment in the G7. By what degree? And in fact, effectively in the OECD, but I'll stick with the G7. Canada's marginal effective tax rate on investment is 13%. The United States marginal effective tax rate on investment after the big beautiful bill, quote unquote, is over 17%. So we're more than 4 percentage points through the United States. We are half the G7 average. We have the most competitive tax environment for corporate investment, and I'd like to see that in a Bloomberg story. And you will have it detailed in the update on Tuesday if you want the background.
Last question, dernière question, Guillaume.
Oui, Guillaume Saint-Pierre, Journal de Montréal. Bonjour, M. Carney. Par rapport à la mise à jour économique, par rapport à la mise à jour économique de la semaine prochaine, justement, dans le budget de l'automne, vous avez prévu un déficit d'environ 78 milliards pour l'année dernière, 65 milliards pour l'année en cours.
Oui.
Il y a eu plusieurs annonces là, depuis, notamment la suspension de la taxe fédérale d'accise sur l'essence. Est-ce que vous pouvez garantir que le déficit de la semaine prochaine qui va être annoncé va être le même que celui de l'automne?
C'est la nouvelle de la semaine prochaine, mais ce que je peux garantir, que nous avons un ministre des Finances très capable, très prudent. Nous avons un gouvernement qui gère nos chiffres, qui gère nos dépenses, qui trouve des épargnes pour les Canadiens et Canadiens.
Follow-up,
Just one
local CBC.
question. Hi,
great.
This is about the actual thing that we're here for today. Arthur White-Crummey from CBC Local.
Thank you.
So today we're here to talk about the 1,000, now 1,100 units I think that the federal government is directly funding. There's also the 2,000 units that you're going to build on federal lands. And that's just on 2 sites. But of course, there's about 24 sites that the federal government owns in the city. And I'm wondering what you're doing to promote development on those sites and how much of a priority it is for you to build there.
Look, it's a fantastic question. It's a fantastic question that occupies the minds of the mayor, occupies the minds of Minister Robertson and myself here in Ottawa and Greater Ottawa and across the country because the federal government in various guises is one of the largest landowners in the country, and not all sites are used as effectively as they could be. And one of the things, there are phases of, if I can put it, this will be my final, I know we've run over, but phases of the reform with Build Canada Homes. First was to get it up and running. Second was to strike these important deals. And again, I just want to underscore leadership of Mayor Sutcliffe in Ottawa and how quickly it's moving, and we're really going to deliver for the people here, including right here in Nepean. But beyond that, there's coordination on 2 fronts. One is with broader infrastructure funding, so community infrastructure funding. It can be health infrastructure funding, broader community centers and others. And think about the challenges we have in a number of jurisdictions with homelessness. Alors, par exemple, en ce qui concerne Montréal, on peut avoir une approche globale avec l'infrastructure communautaire et de logements tellement abordables, logements de transition avec des programmes sociaux. Sorry to drift that, but that can be an example. Winnipeg would be another. We can do in other cities, but so we're working. That's the next sort of phase, and then as well, and this is a machinery of government change, and which is required, is to bring and more centralize control over unused or soon to be unused federal lands so that we can make them available for development and building at scale, with the key focus being on truly affordable housing. So your question is bang on point, and it's that we're moving in phases, but it's one of the most promising things that having the model up and running that we can build on.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Simplement, c'est la prochaine grande étape des réformes de Maison Canada, c'est afin de ramasser la responsabilité pour les terrains fédéraux dans une agence Maison Canada afin de mieux utiliser les terrains pour les maisons, le logement locatif ou de logement privé tellement abordables. Okay?
Merci.
Merci beaucoup.
C'est ce qui m'a fait notre conférence de presse. This puts an end to our press conference.